Hi, I'm Jack, and for the start of MS Week, I'm here to talk to Disability Cornwall about MS.
Hi, I'm Lou from Disability Cornwall. Jack is my partner, and I'm going to be asking him some questions today.
Is maybe someone like to see changed. You joking? Tablet? Does that fix it?
How did you feel when you were first diagnosed with MS?
So initially I didn't know anything about it. But the doctor told me I had it, and I was just sort of like, cool, great, thanks. Tablet? Does that fix it? So I mean, initially I didn't have any feelings, I guess, to start. But obviously, you know, you tell those close to you, the people you love and everything, and those that have got more of a understanding of it have a bit more of a visceral reaction. You know, so my stepmum was in hospital at the time. She was the ward sister of the ward next to where I was there, and she came across after the whole day and was like, oh, what is it? Is it vertigo or something? And I gave her the leaflet that the doctor had given me, and I can't say the words. And she just like swore, like, you know, because she worked in hospitals for a long time, and the old prognosis is that it's really negative and it's not very good. You know, I remember you yourself were very upset. Yeah. My dad was his usual stoic, it'll be fine self with it. So yeah, I think, yeah, for me, I didn't understand it, didn't know what it was. And then the more I understood it, the more I realised how much it was going to change things permanently rather than just in the short term. Like, you know, when I first had symptoms, it felt like it could just be an ear infection or something, because, you know, balance issues and things like that. But understanding it more was, yeah, it rocked what I understood life was.
What helped you through that time?
The support of people around me, such as you. The children were huge as well. They really got it and understood eventually. Yeah, just everyone around helped, from people I'm close with to, you know, my MS nurse to my consultant. Every single person that I've encountered has been brilliant with it. Every single person in the early days either helped me understand or offered me emotional support with things. So whether that be, like I say, yourself, my father, my dad, not my father, the children, friends, both physically, the friends I have online around the world, in terms of the gaming friends I keep and things, every single one of them not only help me sort of cope with it, but just sometimes forget about it. Because the early days were hardest, by far the hardest. Yeah.
What does a good day with MS look like?
It mostly looks like any other day for any other person. Yeah, like a really good day, I wouldn't even know that I have anything wrong with me in that day. You know, I can function fine, I can think fine, I can move fine, I can talk fine, I can hear fine, I can write fine, I can understand things fine and process everything fine. Those good days don't last a full day is probably the biggest difference now. It's almost it's almost like there's a start off and it's good, and then I've just got a clock ticking down to when it's not going to be so, and I'll start slowly descending into the depths of MS more than normal days.
What does a bad day look like for you?
I mean, without sounding melodramatic, a bad day is a really bad day. So I can wake up and it can take me an hour and a half to actually get out of the bed, to actually physically move myself out of the bed. It can take me, half an hour to get changed. And you've already started the day off like an hour and a half behind where you were even just the day before. And that's just the fatigue side of things. You have days where your legs don't work properly, or a certain side of you doesn't work properly. Your balance is off. You're unable to find the words that you want to find when you're speaking. You think you've said something and you haven't said it. You've said something completely different, and those around you, you become accustomed to seeing a puzzled look on people's face when you said things wrong and not realised it. But the people that are around you all the time get used to it. And just, we'll just ask you politely to repeat yourself, or however, there are days where I can't see things properly, or, I've had spells where I've spent 2-3 weeks with double vision, or cloudy vision in one eye, and the bad days can be really, really very bad. And that's just me. There are other people that must have much, much worse days than I do. Conversely, there are people that have much, much better bad days than I do. But it's hard to describe and get across the full spectrum of it, because all of it's so different. I don't experience what everyone else does. They don't experience what I do, and it's such a strange disease to cope with sometimes. Because even sometimes professionals don't know what's wrong with you, or why something's happening, or what's caused something. It can be really, really random and really, very tough.
Out of all of those things that you just said that are on the bad day, or can happen on the bad day, what do you find to be the most frustrating out of all of them?
The speech part, because I can deal with feeling fatigued. I can deal with falling over. I can deal with not saying things properly. You can adjust things like that, but you can't change what's coming out your mouth when you don't realise it's coming out wrong. And especially with the career that I have in recruitment, it's entirely based around conversation. That can make those days really, really very hard at work. And then, it compounds further when you get home and you're still doing it. That's the most frustrating, the hardest bit of all the things I say that could happen. But again, that's just me.
Regarding work, how has it been being at work and being open about your MS?
It's been fine. Really fine. So when I interviewed for where I work, I told them at the interview I had MS. I made them very aware that there would be days, weeks that I'm just not around, not available, or won't be able to work. So from sort of day one, they've been really supportive with it. Really, really great. I can't fault where I work at the moment. Anything to do with it. All the people that I work with, not just my managers and stuff, are really understanding around it. They get it. Not to a point where I feel different or mollycoddled or anything like that, but they get that sometimes I need a little bit of assistance, or sometimes someone can just grab me a drink out of nowhere and it feels really nice. They allow me to go to appointments and things without any penalty or any sort of second thought. Work have been really, really great, but again, I know that's not the case for a lot of places, and a lot of people don't have the same support network in their workplace that I do. So I feel really incredibly very lucky for what I get at work.
What are some common misconceptions you've faced about MS?
I think it lies mostly around people's knowledge and understanding of it in terms of misconception. So I remember very early on going to my friend's wedding and telling some other friends I had it, and one of them was just like, "Is it contagious?" It's like, do I have to stay away? It's like, no, no, you don't. Um, and and there's one really big misconception is that because unless you live with someone that has MS or are very close to someone that has MS, you don't really get the full range of what days are like for them. So you'll see that person that's just a friend, and you'll only see them on the days that are good. So you won't see them on the days that are bad, where they can't get out of bed or they can't leave the house, or they've all sorts of other symptoms that mean they can't go somewhere or won't see people. So you see them on the good days, and you assume that that's what having this illness is like. I think the most frustrating thing that people did say to me before was, "Oh, I know someone with MS, and they basically live a normal life." So no, they live a normal life on the days that you see them. They don't live a normal life on the days you don't. They don't live a normal life in the evening when they're tired because they've seen you during the day. So people's idea that you are just fine all the time, most of the time, is probably the biggest misconception I've found so far.
Who has been your biggest ally or support, and what have they done that's made the biggest difference to you?
You have probably been my biggest support through all of it. Like, you've really taken time to understand any new limitations I have, and that's been like a continuing learning process from the beginning. So, when I first got diagnosed, I couldn't walk properly. I kept losing all the control of my left hand side of my body, and I'd fall. So you'd walk on one side of me. And as I guess the journey has continued, you've learnt what I need when I need it. You've learnt when to ask me if I need help and when not to ask me if I need help. It's the weird thing is I think it's had a bigger impact on your life than it has mine in terms of adjustment, because you've made it easier for me by adjusting around me so much that it's seemed, I don't want to say easy, but probably easier than a lot of people would experience, especially if they're alone or have partners that don't get it or are resentful about it, which is very easy. It can be very easy to be resentful about your partner being ill because everything changes and they can't do the things they could before. But no, you've been pretty amazing.
Thank you. I think it's tricky because I feel that actually there's so much more I could do, but especially as someone who wants to fix things for others, I have to almost stop myself because this is your journey, not mine. And I think it's difficult to, I overstep the mark sometimes, because I want to make things easier for you, but making things easier doesn't mean doing everything for you. And I think it's been, I think it'll always be a learning journey, won't it, for both of us, because this is different all the time, isn't it, MS, for you and others. So, yeah. What advice would you give someone who is newly diagnosed with MS?
Take your time. Yeah, don't rush into thinking your world's ended. It's such a multifaceted and variable disease that whilst there is so much documentation on the internet to do with it, or there's so many differing opinions about it, rushing into all of it could, it will just mess with your mind, and not really help you get to grasp the understanding of how it is with you, because as I said, it's very different for everyone. So take your time with it. Don't be afraid to lean on other people.
Something that helped you was joining a support group.
Yes. So it was on the recommendation of my MS nurse at the time, actually, because I said I was struggling a bit mentally with it, because I didn't take my time and I went ahead first into all the information. And she suggested the support group, and it's been like really, they've been really helpful. And again, it can be quite a big first step to make in making that contact with people that you don't know, that I guess aren't professionals, because that's really putting yourself out there and exposing yourself to the world and saying, I have this, where a lot of people, or a lot of, I guess historically, you would want to hide that you have an illness. But yeah, there's support groups that are out there, especially the one sort of the South and West Cornwall, which I go to and I'm a part of, has been really great. You can speak to other people that have the same struggles as you. You can speak to people that have different struggles to you and understand theirs. You can offload with things. They do all sorts of activities. Whether that be during the monthly meeting, they generally have a theme, whether that be an activity there or a specialist coming in and talking about stuff, and they do stuff on other days as well, which is really great for feeling part of as like a supportive community with it, of people of I wouldn't say like-minded, but with similar struggles more than anything. And I got to jump out of a plane, so that was fun, which I never thought I'd do, let alone because of an illness. So, yeah.
And you jumped out of a plane to raise money for the support group?
Yes, I jumped out of a plane to raise money specifically for the support group I go to. So it was a sponsored skydive. We did it with Perranporth. Quite a few people did it. But it was a great experience. I'll do it again and again and again.
What changes would you like to see in society for people with MS?
I guess for there to be maybe a broader awareness of it, because I think there's 1 in 500 people in this country have it, which is quite a lot of people when you boil down the numbers. But I knew nothing about it until I had it, and I'm sure a lot of people are in the same situation. So I'd like there to be more actual awareness about it, and how, and I guess volume of support in places. So I'm not specifically talking in potentially down in the southwest, because there's actually quite a lot of support groups and lots of different charities that do things with it. But no, I'm part of wider social media groups to do with MS, and there are people in the northeast that have nothing around them for miles and miles and miles. There's no support group at all. There's like people in Lincoln that have nothing around them for miles and miles at all. So I think as a country, just having an even level of support and understanding around it would be probably the number one thing. Not just consolidated in places where the people running it make the most effort. because the guys that run the group I go to are so proactive in terms of fundraising and organising stuff and everything else, but it takes a person to do that. And they do it of their own free will. They do it for free. It's voluntary. It's not like they're paid to do it at all. But the fact it actually requires someone with that want to do it is maybe something I'd like to see changed. And it just be a thing that happens across the country.
Thank you.